Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I'm Gino Buccola alongside Ashley Mailloux with producer Lucia helping us out as we're going to head up to Canada and take a look at a race at Century Mile. We're going to preview the Grade 3 Canadian Derby. But before we do that, we want to let you know about a new podcast and interview series that we have over at Daily Racing Form. It's called Off the Track, where we interview different guests in the world of horse racing who have all sorts of different roles. They tell their stories, the ups and the downs. We talked with Jason Beam, track announcer, to start. We've talked with a couple track announcers, Angela Herman, who called the races at Canterbury, Matt Ditterman. We talked with some jockeys, trainers, owners. We'd love you to check it out. Off the Track. You can subscribe to the Daily Racing Forum YouTube, or you can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Ashley, we don't get a chance to head up to Century Mile all too often. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 3 Canadian Derby. I know this is your neck of the woods. You're always talking to Assiniboia Downs and everything going on in Canada. So you're our Canadian expert from what I've heard. As we take a look at this field, what are some of your overall thoughts on this Grade 3?
Well, I don't know if I'm an expert. Assiniboia Downs and Century Mile, they're like a world apart if you look that up on Google Maps. But it's a really good race. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see how some of the horses coming out of Assiniboia Downs in the Manitoba Derby fare. We didn't pull the replay for that, but we're going to talk about it and what happened and ultimately the disqualification of Take Charge Tom, who's the morning line favorite here in the Canadian Derby. But I think there are a couple of horses that, to me, are a little sleepy. They're kind of like a sleeper in here that maybe you would use underneath in the exotics. And I really wanted to get creative and use them on top, but I think it's a tough task. And I think there's more value here in the exotics.
Yeah, we'll move to the Timeform US Pace Projector, but Take Charge Tom is a horse who has some serious backclass, and you look at some of the horses he faced earlier on in his career, and they have him projected to be right on the lead. So if he's able to get a cozy trip up front, he could be really, really tough in here, Ashley. I mean, you just look at some of the horses he faced early in his career, and he crossed the wire first. He was DQ'd in that last race, but it wasn't like he ran poorly. It was one of those weird DQs for coming over early on in a race, going into the first turns, like something you don't see all that often. So, do you think it's going to be like this? Do you see Tom kind of dictating things, or you think it'll be a little more contested?
I think he might get pushed a little bit more, but I do think he's the speed in here. And obviously he'll have to be on the straight and narrow path out of the gate, which maybe he'll be able to in this spot with having post 3. But I don't know how quick they're going to go. I know it says fast paced. I think it will be faster than some of these horses I've seen in their maybe last out or last 2.
Let's meet the field for the Grade 3 Canadian Derby. This is going to go as race number 9 on Saturday over at Century Mile. $200,000 up for grabs. We start things out with Putting on the Foil. And this was a horse who had a pretty good effort last time out, Ashley, in that race. 5 of these come out of the Count Latham at Century Mile on July the 19th. And this is a horse who was trying to get up the rail and got shut off and had to angle out. I thought it was a pretty good effort and was finishing second here, but was well clear of third this day. So it's over a wet track, as you can see here. But I think this is a horse who's a player and definitely one that can be in the mix.
Yeah, the top 2 separated themselves there from the rest of the field. The other 6 well far behind. It's interesting. He's going to have to now stretch out once again from 7/8 to a mile and a 16th and a mile and a quarter. And that's going to be tough on a lot of these horses. But yeah, I do think in terms of his trip, I like that he draws the inside here and he's tactical. He's not a pace setter in any of his races. But in terms of where he should be early, he might be in the second flight. And that's maybe where you want to be going this long.
Saving all the ground down on the inside. Wood Ceiling is next up. He won a stakes race sprinting back in June at Century Mile. He was actually favored in the Count Latham over Put on the Foil and a couple other horses that we're going to see in here. There were 5 total in that race. He was defeated by 15 lengths there. He actually began his career back at Remington Park, and he was stakes placed at Zia, but he was well behind his stablemate Take Charge Tom when they stepped up and faced tough for company over at Sunland. So overall, I just haven't thought that he was quite on the level as Take Charge Tom.
Yeah, he's the other Robertino Diodoro in the field. And it's a little bit of a tough sell, also knowing that Pioneer Storm King and Putting on the Foil were just so clear compared to where he was. He was third, and I know he was clear of fourth by nearly 4 lengths, but he would really need to improve in terms of his figures.
Move to Take Charge Tom. He wins his first three at Turf Paradise, a couple at Turf Paradise, and then a Sunland Stakes race. Then he's in the Mind That Bird Derby in April. He wins that race, and he wins that race over some solid horses. And we're talking Open Company. We're talking some nice horses who are trying to get like Triple Crown on the Triple Crown Trail and trying to get Kentucky Derby points. He's third in the Texas Derby in May behind Instant Replay. That horse was third in the Louisiana Derby. When you're just comparing who this horse has faced compared to the rest of this group, he has competed with and not been overmatched by some serious legitimate horses. So I think from a class standpoint, Ashley, he kind of stands out. My only concern, I think the reason why I didn't put him on top is I do think going longer, you're going to have a couple of these horses that just by default show more early speed stretching out. And I wonder if he gets pushed, but he's the horse they'll all have to beat in here.
They will. And obviously, as we talked about, I mean, he breaks out at the starting gate and he bumps one of his rivals. He's actually the third place finisher and gets put up. And it was the right call. And I don't think the connections have ever questioned that as well. They understand why this horse was disqualified. But with that said, he still won quite nicely. I still think if that doesn't happen right, he's probably the winner of the Manitoba Derby. You bring up a valid point, though, about the stretch out in distance, going from 1.8 miles to 1.25 miles. I still don't think it's an issue. I know he was forwardly placed based on what happened there early, but he doesn't need the lead.
No.
He is happy tracking. We saw that at Sunland in a start there, or a couple of starts there. We saw it at Turf Paradise, where I don't think he's that quick, right? We know that the races there go very, very quick early on. So again, he's the horse to beat. Anything close to last time out, minus what happened, he will be the winner, I think. And just an interesting story here too as well. Breeder is the owner, still a little bit of different circumstances than Deodora's come into this race. There's a lot to like about him.
We move to Dancing Porky, who comes off of a win over at Grand Prairie, but he was well beaten in that Count Latham behind some of these same rivals. He was 25 lengths behind that day. That was on a wet track. My major concern with him, he just doesn't have very much early speed, and that just puts him way behind and at a real disadvantage.
Yeah, and just some of the times of his races, right? They're just a little bit of a tough sell, and obviously he won easily last time out. I have no idea what he faced there. It's hard to stack him up, and you look at his other wins, again, a cup below. I guess his win on June 13th wasn't all that bad. It was a pretty nice win to circle from off of it, but with that in mind, I'd have to pass here.
Counter Cat is one of three horses that comes out of a prep race over at Hastings. That ran pretty well. Was fourth of five early on. Was a couple lengths behind Rondolito. Was a length in front of Accidental Genius, and got kind of stayed towards the inside and got caught in some traffic almost a few different times. Counter Cat then had to shift again late. It was a little bit unlucky. So I'll give him a ton of credit for that last race. I thought he had some legitimate trouble, some legitimate traffic, but then my counter to that with Counter Cat is that he has settled for some minor awards. He has just the one victory and he doesn't mind settling for second or third. That might be kind of who he is, Ashley. There are a lot of horses out there who are good. They run well, but they kind of find traffic and they don't mind settling for minor awards. Maybe he's a horse that you want to use more towards the bottom, but he's certainly honest and in good form.
He is. I would say the top two I'd probably be more willing to take out of there if I was going to take them, especially Accidental Genius, who I thought had more work to do, had a better late turn of foot. So, he's a horse that has improved. I won't take that away from him, and he's versatile. 6.5 mile and a 16th last time out. He handled the stretch out fine. And actually, I think the distance, if anything, might help him a little bit. But again, I think he's settling for kind of a mid-pack finish.
Fancy Like That was a maiden 8,000 claimer, got claimed and then entered into a maiden special weight race for horses up in Canada and actually wins that race. But if we're comparing speed figures, this horse just seems well below. I mean, he's 50-1 on the morning line.
Yeah, well below in terms of the numbers. Look at the maiden score. You got a 50 and then came back with a 41, stretching out from 7/8 to 1 mile and 70 yards. It's tough for me when we look at this one. You look at Counter Cat to look at horses that are non-winners of 2 Life against this field. There are other horses that I think they have to step up, but at least they showed a little bit more against tougher in their most recent outing.
Accidental Genius ran really well most recently. Ashley, you were pointing out in that race at Hastings, he was one of the horses that you may want to take out of that one. He was fifth of six, about 6 lengths off. He started to move three deep. He makes a big bid up to second at the top of the lane. He couldn't get by the perfect trip winner, Rondolito, who got a great trip. He sat right behind a couple of horses battling and could not have asked for a better journey in that race. So coming out of the Hastings prep race from August the 4th, I actually I think Accidental Genius the most in there, even though he ran second.
I really wanted to use him on top. I
I
can't.
know.
I
I thought
wanted
about
to
it.
so bad, but you look at his last three efforts, 6-horse field, a 4-horse field, and a 6-horse field, and he's been dead last basically in all of them. Last time out, he was second from last early. You mentioned Rondolito has the jump, has the edge, and that's been the case in the last three. So maybe you look at this, and if you're handicapping this at home, you go, oh, Rondolito's better. I don't know. I think now at 1.25 miles, this is different. I think Rondolito could be sitting just off the pace, but a couple of other horses are going to be there. How quick do they go? I just think Accidental Genius is a little bit of a wild card here and has back class. I know the figures aren't good, but you have to remember, Drop'em was a decent horse. You kind of go back to those races at even Pleasanton or Santa Anita. I know the Santa Anita races weren't that good, but at Pleasanton, this horse was racing really well on the dirt. So trying to make a little bit of a sales pitch here for Accidental Genius.
Yeah, my old colleague at TVG, Rich Perloff, used to call it the dunce cap. If there's like a reason why you feel like you should use a horse and you don't afterwards, if you're going to look back and say, I woulda, coulda, shoulda, and you put the dunce cap on afterwards. Well, I interviewed Doug O'Neill. We talked all about I'll Have Another and Redham Racing this week. And this one's a son of I'll Have Another. It's almost smacking me right in the face there, Ashley, to use this one in some of the exotics, Accidental Genius. As we move to Border Song, next one up. Border Song was fifth on August the 4th in the Manitoba Derby, but got put up to fourth via DQ that day. He was the one that was badly impeded. He lost positioning. He was back to last, about 8 lengths off. He did move up nicely to six. He was about 4 lengths off, saved ground, and then he cut the corner and he ends up finishing fifth in there. There were two horses that kind of got impacted when Take Charge Tom moved over to the rail to try to save ground, and this was one of them.
Yeah, you can maybe give him a little bit of an excuse then, right? And obviously draw a line through that. I think when you look at his other races, I do not like the race on July 19th from him.
No.
I know he tried to rally from off of it, but again, it's going back to these horses have squared off against each other several times. When you look at the Century Mile race or the Hastings race, I can't take him off of that. I do think this is an interesting horse, though, to see how he started his career. His first three were rock solid. His figures, though, decreased. He had a 73 sprinting, and he's gone sort of back from that, but he's been on a stretch out in distance. So, again, if I'm looking for prices, my prices in here are more in that 10 to 15 to 1 range, excuse me.
We move to Attack, the number 9. He just feels like a player in this one. He was a horse who got put up via DQ in the Manitoba Derby. But if you're looking at his form prior to that, he was racing at Woodbine, where he breaks his maiden against Maiden Special Weight Company. He's facing First Level Allowance Company at Gulfstream and at Keeneland, where he's not beaten all that much by serious allowance and like stakes runners. And then he comes up to Century Mile in a race he probably needs in July. And then on August the 4th, as expected, he takes that nice next step. And I feel like he's a horse who could sit a nice trip. If they go quick in here, Ashley, he will come running. Just feels like a player to me in here.
He does seem like a player. And I think when you look at his two dirt races, you have to realize his first dirt race, yes, he was favored. He doesn't want to go that short. Look when he was in the Cassie barn, he was going longer. Shortest
He started
race
going long.
mile. Yeah,
Right?
and a
Yeah.
mile on 3:16 at Keeneland. You talked about the level of competition. Even the first time he faced winners, Church and State has turned out to be a very good horse up there. Hammerhead's also respectable. So in a lot of ways, I think if people aren't backing Take Charge Tom in here, they're probably looking at Attack based on what happened last time out. He seemed to get a better trip. They went slower. He was a little bit closer, and he just waited. And he didn't cross the wire in first, but he was awarded first.
We move to Pioneer Storm King, who was a winner last time out. He got an easy lead on a wet track. That was actually his first start going long. So he wins that Count Latham and defeats 4 rivals that he'll face in this race. No knocks on that effort. His recent form, last 3 races, they're all pretty solid. My biggest concern with him, Ashley, is that he's going to be facing Take Charge Tom and probably a couple other speeds in here and have to go a little bit longer. I just think he's going to get a way different trip and not as easy of a journey as he had in his last start.
Yeah, if he gets pressed, that's concerning on the 1.25 miles, because when you look at the 7 ace races, I know they were sprinting, they went a lot faster, but he got caught in both of them. And last time out when he won, he took them gate to wire. Out of that race, I would probably take the runner up just based on the style. And you talked about it, Gino. If he gets pressured, he's got to go further now. It's not an easy task to do this. So at 4-1, I can't play him. I think you use him if he's a better price.
Rondolito rounds out the field, and he's won 4 races in a row. And I don't want to feel like I'm knocking a horse who's in such great form, but he's been in some really small fields and has got some great trips, perfect trips, sat third, 2 lengths behind a top 2 battling it out. They set it up for him. He moves to the 2 path to challenge at the top of the lane, but he still had to work to hold off a couple rivals in there. I'm a little worried in this bigger field with the wide draw that he's not just going to be able to sit the type of trips he's been sitting recently, Ashley. So I just don't want to take too short of a price on him. If he's 10-1-ish and above, that's fair. But once he starts getting into the single digits, I worry about him getting hooked really wide.
Yeah, the post isn't ideal in terms of getting the right trip. I will say, luckily, he's got a really long stretch to get into position. He's got enough early foot that he should be able to clear at least half of the field early. I know he wants to be a little bit closer, Gino, based on his past performances, but I can see why someone might use him here. He's done nothing wrong in the last 4. Like you said, if he offers value, he's a player in here, but I just have some reservations about him. I think he's getting tested here, and I also can say this. I understand why the connections go for it. This is big purse money, and you can't knock his form.
Yeah, you don't get too many chances like this either up in Canada and races like this where you're going to run for graded stakes money, for graded stakes placing and $200,000. So as we move to selections, Ashley, I think you went with Thomas right on top, right? He's going to be pretty tough.
I didn't want to. I mean, no one wants to put an 8-5 shot in an 11 horse field, especially at this distance, right? 1.25 miles might be a little bit of an equalizer, but I just think he gets the right trip. He does not need the lead to win. Like I said, if I were to try to beat him, Accidental Genius would be my sleeper. I just don't know if he can kind of turn the tables based on recent figures, but I think he's trending in the right direction.
Yeah, we both have Accidental Genius as a horse who could be a really interesting price player, both using in the second spot. And we both have the same top 4, just in a slightly different order. For Ashley, 3-7-1-9. For me, 9-7-3-1. For you, whoever you play, however you play them, we wish you the best of luck.